Welcome to the Pinelander Podcast, the official podcast of Pineland, broadcasting to you from an undisclosed location deep inside Pineland, where we discuss faith, family, finances, firearms, freedom, food, and everything else in between, with those who believe in living free and living out the values that made this country free.
All right, welcome to the Pinelander Podcast. This is Paul LaFavor, and I'm here with my Ranger buddy, Mike Blackburn. Today is Friday, the 7th of June, the day after D-Day, 2024. And so, I guess in honor of that warrior event, right? We're talking about one of the more successful U.S.-led counterinsurgency efforts to date. We haven't talked about coin in a while.
Right.
And so I think, it's been a lot of episodes.
Yeah, that it's something we need, obviously, haven't done very well at.
Arguably.
In recent history.
So in light of the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan in the summer of 21, if you look back into our history, though, we have a formula for success when it comes to counterinsurgency. And I don't know if we can find it again, but maybe few know about it. But we do have one of the more successful, I would say, arguably the most successful U.S.-led counterinsurgency effort, and that was in the Philippines in the 1950s against a communist insurgency. There was some money involved. There was some time and money, and a lot of brain power. But the big issue with why this was so successful is the victory ran in packs. Victory has 1,000 fathers. The success lied in the numerous ingredients that we had in this coin effort. And so I thought, hey, that would be a good episode, is to look at that again. And then maybe somebody listening to this can be a commanding general one day, and you can fix our future coin effort. No, I'm joking, but more important, and that's true, but also on the ground, guys like us, just basic guys, tactical level guys, we can affect change. If enough guys are doing the right thing, and let me just quickly give a shout out to Jim Gant, right? So Jim Gant, American Spartan, I think one heck of a model American. What did he do? Well, he devised what became village stability operations in Afghanistan. He wrote his essay, if you will, one village at a time, one tribe at a time, excuse me. And we used what was called really a strategic hamlet approach that we've used before. We strong pointed the villages. We brought the counterinsurgents to villages in order to physically separate the insurgents from the population. And so he just revisited history. He did something that was workable, and it was working. Sadly, his demise sunk, I would say, the effort.
Yeah.
But it could have worked.
No, it
could have worked. It was working.
It was working.
But a lot of what he did, and I'm not sure if he's listening, but I would say he went to school on everything we've done in the past. He was a smart man. He is a smart man.
Well, see, and I think it went counter to sort of the objectives and goals of the military-industrial complex. I mean, we always talk about that, but there's not a lot of money into.
Yeah, you can't forget that.
There's not a lot of money in that strategy.
That's true.
I mean, let's be honest.
Let's not get it over quick.
Yeah, it just doesn't take a lot.
There's money to be made.
It takes SF guys primarily. It takes guys like that are well versed. But yeah, there's not a lot of T-walls required. There's not a lot of big defects and gyms need to be built, and it's just you don't need a lot of that.
Yeah, there's not these humongous fobs.
Yeah,
with the movie theaters and Taco Bells and stuff like that.
Right.
KBR, Brown and Root, all that fun stuff. Dynacore, General Dynamics. But and we've seen those, right? All those bases, lots of money. Now, in the this kind of take you back in context here. So, World War II in the Philippines.
Post World War II.
Yeah, we fought the Japanese in World War II.
Oh, right.
And we've talked about a few times. We could direct you if you're listening to if you've listened to the previous podcast on Fertig, Mindanao. So this is on the island of Luzon. This is what we're looking at today. Luzon's the largest island. Philippines has roughly 7,000 islands.
Yeah.
And this one was fought there.
Right. So, they say counterinsurgency is a lot easier on an island.
Yeah.
Unless you're in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Because, it's just so many islands that it makes it tougher.
Yeah, I would say.
'Cause there's always a place for the insurgents to go.
Yeah.
You can't secure all 7,000 islands.
Yeah, and Luzon is, it's a little bit larger than Mindanao. Mindanao is about the size of South Carolina. And so Luzon's a little bit bigger. So it made probably, I would say, 3/4 the size of North Carolina. So it's pretty big. So then it's got mountains and swamps and plains.
And all the terrain.
Got all the terrain and terrain that would be very permissible to the insurgency. So imagine World War II is over. During World War II, the Filipinos, they fought, the guerrillas fought about 277 guerrilla bands, which had something like 300,000 Filipinos fighting the Japanese, U.S. led. So there's a lot of guerrillas. One of those guerrilla bands was the Hooks, the Hook Balahop, and that just meant fight against the Japanese. And the difference with the Hooks, though, out of these other 276 guerrilla bands that fought the Japanese in World War II in the Philippines, was they were communist. So they had the communist ideology, and really, gladly, thankfully, that only took in that one guerrilla band, which we're fortunate for that, because the occupation period, if you want to call it that, the Commonwealth period, when the U.S. was helping the Philippines achieve independence, which they achieved in 1946, there was really a fertile breeding ground for a communist ideology. You have people not having, wanting to have. So you have the have-nots wanting what the haves have. Mm-hmm. And so that age-old expression, from each according to its ability, to each according to its need, it seemed to take, at least with Louis Taruc. So enter Louis Taruc. He was the leader. He formed a communist Huk Bong Bayon Laban sa Hapon, or the People's Anti-Japanese Army. Later, they were just called the Huk Balahop, and then also the Hooks. So the Hooks, according to Mark Moyer, the historian, the Hooks, in 1941 to 45, they killed over 4,000 Japanese.
So how?
But
how big is this tribe? Is like, as far as like the various tribes on Luzon? Any idea? Like, are they pretty good size?
The tribe. Well, the Hooks were part of different tribes.
Okay, so they were they were an ideology.
Yeah, this is really you have poor, you have dirt farmers,
just poor Filipinos of Luzon.
Yeah,
and they're just joining this movement.
They're joining the movement.
I got it.
So, like I was saying, as Mark Moyer says, the Hooks killed over 4,000 Japanese, but they killed over 20,000 Filipinos. And they also fought a lot of the other guerrilla bands, U.S.-led guerrilla bands, namely Ray Hunt, Ramsey, even, I'm not sure, they might have even gotten to a couple of ticks with Volkmann's guys, and then others. So these guys just thought of not only ousting the Japanese, but they saw anyone that was not a communist, didn't have that ideology as an enemy.
Yeah, they're bringing in their cultural revolution there.
Yeah. So their whole idea was not only independence, but just the downfall of whatever the Commonwealth was going to be, and then overturn that and have a communist utopia in the Philippines. And we've heard of that before, right?
Yep.
But we win the war. We know that. We defeat Japan. And then as these guerrilla bands go through the DDR process of disarmament, disengagement, and reintegration into society, the hooks had to be disarmed at gunpoint.
Wow.
And so now they were able to cache weapons and ammunition and other things throughout the Luzon, which was their mainly around Mount Arayat and some of the swamps and stuff like that. But so now the war's over. There's the Commonwealth of the Philippines. And so now Filipinos are wanting to have, okay, where's the good life? Where's all of this utopia, going to materialize? And so a couple things that happened that were for the worse and actually aided to the resurgence of this hook bala hop insurgency. So first thing was the government in Manila was corrupt.
Right.
So you had President Osmeña. He was kind of weak. It wasn't like Quezon, and so arguably, and you had the elections of 1946, and in those elections, you had 6 of the hooks were elected to the House of Representatives of the Philippines, but even though those 6 seats were won, Quezon revoked those seats. And so they ousted those guys from their seats, even arrested Taruk and his guys for a little while. And then once they released, Louis Taruk goes to the hills and says, hey, it's on, guys.
Right.
Return to the hills.
Yeah, he's not even getting any kind of, he may have been satisfied with some representation in the government.
Yeah, and that really laid, now I got it, look. I mean, who wants commies in the government? I got it. Now, arguably, if they would have given them those seats, that could have grown and eventually displaced the capitalist democratic society that they had, arguably. So I'm not saying it was a bad idea to oust those guys, but I don't know. That history it just went the way it went.
Yep.
Now, so the hooks have a pretty good base of support. They eventually rise to some 12,000 guerrillas, sizable. You have about 18 million Filipinos in the Philippines at the time. In the affected area, about 2 million on Luzon. And so about 12,000 guerrillas, and then maybe 150,000 sympathizers or auxiliary, underground, whatever you want, that's working with the guerrillas in Luzon.
It wasn't like they had to relearn any of these skills.
No, that's the idea.
I mean, they had been doing this against the Japanese. I mean, their networks were probably pretty well established.
Yeah, their networks were. And so they just, not even a year had gone by, and they just reinstated these same
old systems
systems in place. Now, a couple things happen. You have, I said, Carino in I can't remember who I said before, but I meant to say Carino.
Yeah.
Carino, he employs every coin effort known to man from 46, 47, 48. And the way they do it, his approach is really to negotiate. He dies. A guy named Rojas comes in. Rojas was also a guerrilla leader. Yeah. And his approach is elimination.
Yeah.
And so
he's a little more kinetic.
Yeah, he's a kinetic guy. He is an iron-fisted guy. And so we have just unrestricted violence on the hands of the Philippine constabulary and the security forces that are just going willy-nilly.
Yeah.
And anyone suspected of being a hook, you have just a lot of atrocities.
And we usually know how that goes.
Yeah.
You kill one insurgent and you've just created maybe 5 more.
Exactly. So, I mean, within 2 years of Rojas doing this, the hook is doubling. It doubles in its size. And so at this point, things are trending towards the hook victory. And if things don't take a turn, another thing happened. There was really probably two things the hooks did that actually were toward the government favor. One is Taruk tried to change tactics. He tried to have stand up a Politburo in Manila. So he tried for a Leninist approach, which is a urban tactic for communist guerrilla warfare over against Mao's approach, which is rural, which what he was doing. So problem is the Politburo was rounded up. Thousands of members, they're rounded up, jailed because of their propaganda leaflets. They just followed the snail trail back to where they were at the office, and they got rounded up. The other thing they did is they went after Manuel Quezon's widow, Doña Aurora. The second president of the Philippines was Quezon. He had been dead for a while. He had led the Philippines in the government of exile. And then once the Philippines was established, he
it's
took the helm.
One of their heroes.
So this is the one of the national heroes. They thought it was a good idea to ambush her, kill her and her party.
Yeah, it didn't go over well.
It didn't go. It went over like a Led Zeppelin. And so the attack brought on worldwide condemnation of the hooks. It really it turned the rest of the islands against the hooks, and many of their sympathizers on Luzon, they were less sympathetic, obviously, to that. And part of the problem with the hooks is in the recruitment, they also brought in criminals. So they had arguably a quarter, if we could throw out some metrics of their size, were a criminal element. So bandits, anytime when you have this vacuum of power, you have this, opportunists where they loot. And so you have a tendency, a predilection for banditry, raping and pillaging and murdering. And so it's just unrestrained aspects to the hooks. Yeah. People are getting tired of this. Yeah. And so this in turn leads to a knee-jerk reaction on the part of Rojas. Famously, Good Friday of 1950, the Philippine Army massacred 100 men, women, and children in a town of Bacolor. And they burned the homes. They were firing indiscriminately into these homes because this village was suspected as a village that was harboring the hooks. And so this just turns, the situation is going, bad to worse. It's like it's descending into a civil war. And that's when we get involved in the 1950s. An interesting thing about this is we've got the Korean War going on.
That's right.
1950, June 25th, 1950, the North Koreans rolled across the demilitarized zone and, took it to us, caught us off guard. And so basically from 50 to 53, we're fighting this war at the same time this counterinsurgency is going on
in the Philippines, which is not that far away.
In some ways, not that far. In some ways, it helps out the goings on because it's like, hey, it's out of sight, out of mind. Yeah. A couple other great things happened. 3 good things. One is we put in some money. So in 1950, we put in, this was Truman. He kicked in $9 million, and then another $10 million in 1951. Specifically to create a new Philippine army. Mm-hmm. He envisioned 33,000 men. And then General Bradley, one of the main commanders during World War II, he was the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He chaired that. And they envisioned having a few boots on the ground. So a small template of U.S. advisors right? And then the idea was to reform. Train the trainer, reform the, amnesty and try some different approaches instead of just artillery striking our way.
Kind of professionalize the military.
Yeah. Second thing that happened was the appointment of Ramon Magsaysay as a defense minister. This is also a guerrilla leader in Bataan area, Zambales, sorry. And so he was given this appointment, cool-headed guy, level-headed, almost like a teddy bear, could be. But then the idea is his appointment brought a huge degree of stability, right? And then a way of putting a glove over this iron fist that was just swinging away, right? And then adding his
a calming influence.
Yeah, a calming influence. Yeah, and it was immediately perceived, right?
Yeah.
Third element of success here was the appointment of or sending out Colonel Edward Lansdale, who was OSS, and then also CIA.
Yeah.
His cover, though, he was, and we know this backhandedly, he was an Air Force colonel. He was sent to advise and assist Magsaysay and the prosecution of this coin effort. And so these guys made an excellent team. Magsaysay, Lansdale, even keel and also very smart and socially astute type of guy that Edward Lansdale was. So the first thing, this is where things kind of take a turn for the best, right? Lansdale gets on the ground and he just says, "Okay, let's just go get an honest assessment of what the heck is going on.
On what's happening."
Yeah. So he gets on the ground. He drives around. Now, he had some balls.
Yeah.
So you could ride in a car with him, but you'd be in the back seat because his balls would ride shotgun.
Yeah.
He went around to all the villages and saw, okay, what exactly is going on? And he got the assessment is, the Philippine Constabulary, the security forces, they're just firing indiscriminately. There's dire need of reform of the coin force.
Yeah.
Rules
of engagement, just like professionalism.
Just the basics, right? LOAC.
Respect for life.
Some empathy for the people. These are your people,
right.
Stuff like that. And so he found out that the people, he showed them that the people are the actual land.
Yeah.
So, I mean, here's the concept, right? Here's the aha moment that normally in traditional war, we're looking at occupying political space, destroying the forces that are arrayed against us, occupying the political space, and then you pretty much got it. But the idea with irregular warfare is people are the land.
Right.
You could own the battle space. You can destroy an army that's arrayed against you, but if you don't have the people,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's going to be a forever war, and we've seen those.
We have lots of them.
Yeah, and they just go on and on.
That's right.
And you can win all the battles, lose the war, because you lose the people.
Right.
So he thought, okay, I need to have a formula for success. And so there's various elements, ingredients to the formula. So they just, if you're following what's going on, hopefully I haven't lost anybody. There would be no way to know except for you. But so his first, by looking at things, he thought, hey, the first thing we need is reform. We need to take the reform and raise the bar of how we're doing this. So he had to advise this. So here's the thing, Lansdale he's not in charge.
Yeah, by with and through.
Yeah, this is, just textbook U.S. advisor.
Right.
You don't control the battle space. You're not tactically in command. You
got to have a Filipino face to it. It's got to be.
You have to influence like an inception moment with this leader. And so to get him to see this goodness you're trying to sell him. And so he thought, hey, there's some elements that we need. So the first thing they did is reform the military and the police. And so this is largely a FID effort, a foreign internal defense. Yeah. This is what we do. He also enforced those imperatives of, hey, there's a law of armed conflict. Also, we need to be more empathetic with the people. And here's the big thing too. I remember being in Iraq, and there was a change that we had in 06 or 07 where we left the FOBs and we went back really among the people, because before that we were just in the FOBs. That's right. You're like, hey, let's get more presence. Okay, we talked about that in Afghanistan. We did that for a while until, Gant said, hey, our focus needs to be among the population. Instead, we're just protecting ourselves. And what Lansdale's aha moment was, we're not protecting the people. And so that was the emphasis: the quality of the force, the empathy, protecting the people, and that raised the legitimacy, and the people start to see a clear evidence of that. They start to see that, hey, these guys care.
They're on our side.
They're on our side. They're for us, and so the instead of trying to protect the political space, we want to protect the people who are the contested land. If you hear what I'm preaching. And so they used also various tactics. So the other aha moment was, hey, success has various elements. We're using one hammer, right? And it was like a big Thor hammer. So if you have only a hammer, everything looks like, if your only instrument's a hammer, everything looks like a nail. It's like, let's have different instruments, different ways of prosecuting this coin effort. Yeah. And so they looked at amnesty. Amnesty, you can, there were, throughout that time, they had months, 6 months, you could come out, you could surrender, give your gun, and, hey, go back into society. We'll just, forget, water under the bridge, all those things. The other one was guns, money for guns, a buyback program. Yeah. And that actually accounted for about a third of the weapons that they figured were out there, the hooks were using. Yeah. So you have people streaming out of the hills. They're like, okay, look.
I think both of those, amnesty is something I don't think we think about too much, but the life of a guerrilla is not easy, right? Seems real sexy. Yeah. Hanging out in the G base, good home cooking.
Yeah, mosquitoes, chiggers.
But it is not. It's a tough life.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier that a good hunk of the hooks were of a criminal element anyway. These are people that really don't have any place really to go. I mean, they're the hooks are nothing really. Yeah. So when you give these guys a chance, a second chance, and say, hey, listen, you can come out of this lifestyle. It's a tough lifestyle. Come back into the Ville. Get a legitimate job. Life's easier. Get yourself a family. I think we underestimate the lure of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So important thing, and I think it's important to mention at this point, is the motto of the hooks was land for the landless. That was their motto. And so that was really their cause.
Right.
So, arguably, their cause was to overturn the Philippine government and make a communist utopia, which that never works.
It wouldn't have been land for the landless anyway. That'd have been all.
It's got to come from somebody.
Yeah.
Somebody has to own that land, and you have to take it from somebody. But the
redistribution of land.
Yeah. So that is the core grievance that they had. But that was really, it underscores a point by David Galula that a cause is an insurgency.
Right.
A cause. So here's the genius of Edward Lansdale. He understands, hey, look, these guys, they just want a taste of the good life. Yeah. They want some land. Right. And so the brilliant thing they did was he came up with a system. He pulled it out of his fourth point. He called it Economic Development Corps, EDCOR. So EDCOR envisioned taking and incentivizing the surrender of the hooks, as long as they surrender with a gun, right, and resettling them from Luzon to Mindanao, far to the south, and giving them acreage, a carabao ox,
a piece of dirt,
cart, a piece of dirt, and then you got it.
Yeah, they can
You've got what you want.
Yeah. Now they're landowners. Now they're farmers.
Freaking brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
And you're taking them off of Luzon. You're taking them out of their neighborhood.
Exactly. Take them out of the affected area. So EDCOR hits the ground. At the same time, they don't stop the selective strikes. They don't stop the amnesty. They don't stop the cash for intel, the cash for guns. All these elements, these formulas of success are just running, right? The word hits the street, the bamboo telegraph, and they learn, hey, I surrender with my gun, I can get a taste. Yeah. And the net worth of what happens is the cause of the insurgency is undermined.
Yeah,
now the land for the landless.
The enemy now is providing what the insurgency is trying to get.
Yes.
There's just nothing to fight for anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I can get. Why should I, kill myself fighting for Louis Tarouk when
to take something that is being readily, freely offered?
Sure, I can walk out of the hills, save myself, and I can actually get out of here.
Exactly.
And minute out sounds pretty good. They were able to acquire. Here's the thing: that's the slicky boyness of Lansdale is he acquired these acreages. However they did, I'm still trying to learn.
Well,
they just carved it out. Here you go.
Well, you got to know that on both Luzon and Mindanao there's probably all types of undeveloped acreage all over the place. Yeah. I mean, these were we launched insurgencies from these islands. I mean, there's obviously places that were not being utilized.
No,
lots of undeveloped land.
And it's just a matter of knowing the box, thinking outside the box, and actually looking at the situation, using your brain, and understanding, you can have more than one tool, right, to bring to the fight. And so he has these. Not only this, I don't want to discredit this. There's civic action projects that are underway. The rebuilding these villages that had been previously artillery striked into oblivion. Yeah. Return of critical services. I mean, duh.
Yeah, you got all the post-war construction
schools,
going on.
clinics, all these things. And so the people
Plenty
see
of jobs.
Yeah, you're creating jobs, and now you're strangulizing this, this lifeblood out of the hooks. You're taking the people away from them, right? Who are now seeing it's better to not run in the hills and die and get mosquito bitten. So
one of the strategies was not doing like a George Floyd mural in Manila.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
No. So in the end, what you had is the hooks just lost their root cause.
Yeah.
They lose the base of support. In the end, you have 10,000 hooks are killed through the fighting of some 3 years, more like 5 years. About 1,600 wounded, 4,200 captured. But here's the thing: about estimated 15,800 surrendered.
Wow.
To get a taste. So go get a carabao, get some land.
Go get their 40 acres and a mule.
Yeah. And so the Magsaysay Lansdale genius demonstrate not only, so many things. That leadership is essential, right? If you get the wrong guy in the wrong place,
right?
But also that counterinsurgency works best holistically.
When there's a plan,
yeah,
and a strategy.
When there's a plan, exactly. Yeah. Now I just I gotta throw a shout out to this too, but I'm reading Thomas Rick's Fiasco, and just the buffoonery we had of not having a campaign plan. Right. Once it's like, woohoo, we won. Now what do we do? And we've done that so many times. Yeah. We won. Now what? Yeah. And so we have these awesome, tactical, brilliant victories, and we follow it up with strategic debacles, right, that drag on for years and years and years. But that didn't happen here. This was the formula of success that it runs in packs. Yeah. So it takes all of these elements. Now, arguably, we use a lot of these elements in Iraq. We use a lot of these elements in Afghanistan, but we didn't have an actual plan, and we had mission creep, right, and then we had changeover and rollover. And what they had for these 3 years is the Magsaysay Lansdale team
Yeah,
they stayed the course until it was done.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems that arise with our sort of rotational schedule that we do in places like Iraq and Afghanistan for recent history. Is you'll come in for whatever number of months, and your commander has some sort of vision that he wants to do during his rotation. And when that unit rotates out and the next unit comes in, lo and behold, you have a new commander with a new sort of strategy. And we saw that throughout Afghanistan. It was just one new commander's idea, followed by the next commander's idea.
Forget what that last guy said.
Yeah.
Now we're going to do this.
And what the beautiful thing about what they did in the Philippines was using the advisors, thinking this thing through, but the people that are executing the plan are on board with the plan, and the plan is not changing from commander to commander, and they have a vested interest, other than a guy who may be on a rotation in the stand. In the number one objective, of course, is working out, getting pumped, and grabbing a little and getting a little action, right? Want to get their gun on, get your gun on and pump iron.
Not enough guys doing the right.
Not really on board with the long-term strategy, the long-term objective of what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah. So let me just sneak this in here now. We mentioned Jim Gant because we have arguably at that time you had no counterinsurgency campaign plan. And I would argue we didn't, not effective. Because the idea is we came in there with that political in-state. We didn't really know what the thing would end up being. And while we didn't know what that would be, but while we didn't know what that would be, we have a commander, company level, who's operating at a tactical level that has, strategic second, third order effects.
Yeah,
that actually changes what happens.
Yeah, he was an absolute Robin Sage go. I mean, he got it.
I'd give him a go. Yeah,
he got it. Yep. He was where you hope every ODA team leader is at when they graduate the Q course. I mean, he understood what the job was and what it entailed. I mean, he didn't spend very much time in a fob other than when he was in trouble, getting ready to see the man on the carpet. But other than that, I mean, he was out there with the Afghans, living with the Afghans, getting it done like SF guys are supposed to do.
And every bit of a warrior. Now, I didn't mention this also, but the Hooks. Part of their demise is they had no external support, and arguably, as you look through history, no insurgency can survive without external support. And if you take that and that line of thinking, pass it through history, and you're going to find that. Also, they had no cross-border sanctuary. So they had a sanctuary of Mount Arayat. They had some swamp, but having no external support, and as we know, a communist insurgency. But Louis Turuk received no arms, no cadre, no anything, no money, no nothing from China. China was busy in Korea at the time. Yeah. Okay, they were probably a little busy, but that might have accounted for that. But yeah, without external support, you can't survive as an insurgency. And so we looked at Wendell Fertig and Russell Volkman and Blackburn in the Philippines. They had external support. We had submarines that supplied them and all these other things. You can check out those other podcasts, but that's something they didn't have. So the Hooks are going to die in the vine without that. So I don't want to say. I mean, that was a crucial ingredient of how the Max ASA Lansdale team was able to put the kibosh on them.
Right. Yeah, Jonathan Owen kind of brings that the importance of that up in #fail in his book. You do have to somehow isolate, seal off what you're dealing with. It makes it easier. Yeah,
the Taliban were able to slip back over the border into Pakistan and the federally administered tribal area, regroup, reform, get back into the game.
Go on vacation.
Yeah, and do it again. That was a crucial element in our inability to stop them, of course, but that's a whole other episode.
Yes,
right? Sometime in the future.
But there's a lot of, well, I think you're right, though. I mean, there's a lot of factors that you have to consider in your coin strategy. And so we're just bringing up, the things that worked in the Philippines and why those factors played a part.
Yeah. Now, in light of, I mentioned the book Fiasco by Thomas Ricks, fantastic book. It highlights the invasion of Iraq all the way up to 2009. And something he highlights is, the coin, you have to have a coin strategy, number one. We didn't have that in Iraq. But a coin strategy should be designed to defeat not only the insurgency, but the root cause that led to the insurgency.
And we talked about that with the Hook's motto, right? What their goals were. So you have to, that's an important part. I mean, what is the gripe?
What's their beef?
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah.
If we could change the world right now, what would you ask for? What would make you guys happy?
Yeah, I mean, and the core grievance. What was their core grievance? It was if he had not gotten out there and learned, real time, what exactly talking to the people, and I think that's important. And I remember being able to do this. It is dangerous, is you don't lose the common touch with the people. You're out there. You have a presence.
And that's the problem we have in today's sort of FOBIT atmosphere, right? The FOBIT environment.
Yeah.
And I mean, I used to chuckle all the time about it in Iraq and Afghanistan, where you'll have people that go on deployments, and they'll never ever leave a fob. I mean, they get on an airplane, they leave the United States, they land at one of the fobs. They never leave that fob. They're kind of in a walled mall, someplace. They might as well be hanging out in Cross Creek, Mall for their tour. Get back on the plane, go right back to the U.S. and somehow they think they were in Afghanistan or Iraq, and they've never ever. They've seen some Afghans, they've seen some Iraqis because they come onto the fobs. But you're absolutely right. We have to get out there. We have to interact. We have to actually know what's going on. We have to have your finger on the pulse. You have to, if you want to know what the villagers are experiencing, you have to experience it.
Yeah,
and you have to win their trust, and they have to know that you're real, that you do care about their plight, and then you'll have conversations. That takes a while. That you have to establish relationships. I think that's what makes at least our regiment kind of unique in the military, is that we understand that, and we're trained to do that.
And that takes time.
It takes a lot of time.
It takes time.
And I'll be honest with you, I don't know how good I was at it on active duty. Certainly, as I've gotten older, I've understood it a lot better from reading and doing Robin Sages and things like that. But it's a totally different world. It's a totally different mindset. It's not getting your gun on, really.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not kinetic. I mean,
exactly. It's a lot. Now there's
parts you have to, but it's not the main.
Yeah.
The main. It's not direct action.
So what we're saying is you can't raid your way to victory.
No, you can't. It's just unless you just want to. Unless you love enemy.
I love how
you just make more enemy.
I think it was. I don't know. I'm using Rick's a lot, but I think he said, or somebody else. He said, you can't Delta Force your way to victory. And I thought that was awesome.
No, and that's true.
Yeah.
That is true. Now, there's a time when you need to bring those boys in, okay?
Yeah.
Because you have a target. But that's not going to win you a war.
Yeah. And the other thing is, we talked about Jim Gant and Afghanistan. And something an element he was that he introduced, and I think we forgot, is the coin force must not be perceived as occupiers. And I think, initially, I'm going back to Iraq and Afghanistan. Initially, we looked that way.
Oh, absolutely.
And you had people, and I've said this so many times before. Sorry, but people just say, "Hey, head back to the ambush location. The Russians are back." It's us.
Yeah.
But it's like, hey, it's just whoever the invaders are this decade.
Insert whatever country you want.
Get on back. Yeah, fill in the blank. But and so the idea is you have to have a national, local face. That's what Jim Gant was bringing. It's like, hey, get amongst the people. They need to perceive you as not an occupier,
Well, here's
but
the
you're
other
on their team.
So and I think there's two things to that come to mind, and is that there's the real local face, okay, and then there's the one that we sort of create, that we create this local face. And why I'm saying that is because, I mean, once the U.S. pulled out of Afghanistan and pulled out of southern Vietnam as well, how fast did it take for that local face to fall apart?
Fall like a cheap suit.
Right?
Yeah.
So, you can create a real indigenous force, okay, and you can create the make-believe one. And we're very good at just going in there and giving people a bunch of uniforms and a bunch of equipment and organizing them into some sort of TO&E and say, hey, you're this. But that's not the same as what they probably did in the Philippines, where they took the already existing structure and professionalized it and improved upon it.
That's why I love this vignette on the hooks, is because we didn't bring in our sauce. Right. We worked with theirs. We put in the Texas Pete.
I see that so much on my deployments, where it's like you get these 20, 30-something, State Department folks or whatever, and their idea of fixing a foreign country is just Americanizing it.
Yeah.
We'll just do the same thing over here that we do in,
do it our way. Yep.
Just do it like we do it in Washington, D.C., and you guys will be wonderful.
Yep.
And it's just comical.
Yeah.
It's just like you can look at it and go, yeah, that's not going to work.
It's culturally obtuse, is not knowing the people. And you have to have a degree of cultural intelligence. And that's why I like, I look at history. I want to get this in here too, is this formula for success was initially used. Edward Lansdale was sent to Saigon, and at the beginnings of Vietnam, and he was going to employ the same procedures, all of the formula for success in Vietnam, but his advice was not taken, and we had the wrong guy in charge. His name was President Diem.
It's a novelty, Paul.
Yeah,
I mean that was old thinking.
Yeah. Well, and arguably now to be fair, Vietnam is not an island.
It is different.
It's different. The culture is a little different. But there were initially what's called the strategic hamlets.
Right.
Were basically like VSO. So you have the village. It's got its own defensive capabilities. You have the advisors there. But this is a way of physically separating the affected population from the insurgents. All of the Lansdale playbook was used initially there in Vietnam, but it ended up being the road not taken, as Max Boot says.
Yeah. So how successful were the Montagnards, for instance, as an example?
It was very successful. The programs, though, were just simply turned over to another program, which was you had the strategic hamlets, and then that whole program became an abysmal failure because of Diem. You had corruption in the government there, and then that's really and buffoonery, incompetence, and instead of applying Lansdale's ingredients for success, and I think it could have worked. They fumbled the ball. And then eventually he just left and said, hey, whatever, guys, have a good one. And then the only thing was left to do is, a sausage grinder and a grinding away of another almost 20 years. Yeah. Sad. And so Vietnam arguably could have been different if we would have applied the wisdom that we had in Lansdale. Yeah. But, hey, that's just the way it is. Also, I want to draw a straight line. I don't think it's too simplistic between Lansdale and Gant, but he had the same type of formula. If you look at it, if you study both the hooks and how that was done and how Gant's approach to one tribe at a time, so many similarities. It could have worked. Again, there's other factors. There's money. There's the wrong people in charge. Right. There's the hubris, in a lot of ways, stupidity of the wrong people being there, and then of course the events that just took place, and probably took away any success that could have happened. But
yeah, it's funny. I mean, we overthrew the Taliban in pretty short order. With a very small
victory.
footprint.
Yeah.
And so that works.
Yeah.
I mean, the first objective one.
Yeah, technology and balls.
Dude, was just. I mean, it was easy.
Yeah. Yep.
It doesn't take a lot of money. It doesn't take a lot of people. If you do have a plan that's well thought out, and that plan was thought out very well. It was executed very well. Needless to say, I guess we didn't have what comes next, which you brought up earlier, which is okay. Now they're overthrown. What makes the most logical sense for Afghanistan and these people? Gant was right in one aspect where so go the Pashtuns, so goes Afghanistan, and so I mean he knew he had some thought behind where he was going. But yeah, I mean, I think that's where the big money interest comes in and says, well, you need this and that, and the big highways and construction and huge fobs.
I want to quote General Cleveland. He says this in his book on, I can't remember the exact title. The American Way of Irregular Warfare. All right. He says, American tactical brilliance has often been followed by strategic muddling and eventual failure. Yeah. I mean, that's spot on.
No, I just spot on.
We got to figure out why we're doing that.
Generally, in any firefight that we're involved in, it's an unfair event.
Yeah, we win all the battles.
And
we got to figure out how to get back to this ingredients of success. Maybe we look at our history.
Well, the other thing that I noticed before I got out was just the risk averseness of the military.
You got out of
you have to have 04.
04, yeah.
But you have to have I was starting to see it in Iraq as a contractor after I retired, big time. And of course, it just got worse from there. But we've got to recruit warriors again and people that understand what the mission of the military is, which is to kill people and break things. At its simplest mission. And we have to have the type of people that are trained and are able to do that and understand that's what they're there to do. And people that are not afraid to get out of the armored vehicle and get after it. And we're getting smaller and smaller numbers of folks in the military that can actually do that, that are willing to do that. And we really need to get back to that. We need to get back to recruiting and training warriors and having them and commanders too. We need to quit ruining commanders' careers if something bad happens, if life happens. That's absolutely ridiculous. Where a commander's careers are ruined because of a DUI or something, one of his soldiers. I mean, that's just insane. We need to understand that men are going to be men, and things are going to happen, and you try to put things into place to minimize that, obviously. But listen, it's a warrior. It should have a warrior culture, and there should be that sort of lifestyle should be expected from the civilian leadership.
Yeah, I mean, I would have had a fairly short career if I had been if I didn't have guys that look at me and say, okay, that was kind of dumb, and let's learn from this instead of throwing you away.
Well, leaders, and of course, back when you and I first went to the military, I mean, leaders would correct the subordinates. And of course, now it's all just paperwork.
Yeah.
Now it's just crush them. But back when I first came in, there wasn't a lot of paperwork flying around. But make no mistake, your leader would make your life a living hell. I mean, you were going to get fixed.
I always
and that showed me that my leaders cared about me, and I was developing from a young man into an older man, a seasoned warrior, and that took time to get rid of kind of work out some of the youthful indiscretion. But we're not really willing to do that anymore in military leadership. But yeah, we got to get risk averse, and we have to get
can bring back.
We have to bring back the warrior class. We have to bring back some. And I think when those guys get into higher positions, I think they'll make better decisions as well. Yeah. I think if you've been down in the mud and the muck with the men, I mean, I think you make better decisions than when you get to the top.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it just comes down to preferring pain over paper.
Exactly.
I used to say that to guys. I think most of them would say, yeah, I'll take pain. Yeah, because you learn from that. And I didn't want to, I would be remiss if, to go this whole time without saying and denouncing communism outright. And just reminding us that communism doesn't have a history, it has a criminal record. So wherever you go around the globe, this has never worked.
We don't do a good job of
we don't say this
of
enough.
Teaching that today.
Yeah.
When you and I came in the military, it was very well understood that it was freedom and capitalism and liberty and opportunity versus communism and all the things that go along with that. And the tyranny, the totalitarianism, the freaking total disregard for life, statism. We understood that intrinsically, I think, at 18 years old when we took the oath of our enlistment. And we understood good and evil and the forces, that sort of bipolar world of freedom versus tyranny. I don't think I think I don't know what happened, but somehow communism looks kind of attractive to these younger generations. They've pulled millennials, they've pulled Gen Z. They seem to kind of prefer they kind of like things just to kind of be handed to them, and if you have the statism that they're just gonna make everything's gonna be nice and work out. Everyone's gonna equity is nonsense. It does not exist in nature. There's no such thing. There's no two people. I've never met two people that were alike. There's no two things alike. All we can have is equality. We can have the quality of opportunity. Everyone should be afforded the opportunity. That's what America's about. But we've kind of lost that, and I think that also reflects in the military where we don't even quite too sure who the bad guy is. I mean, there's people that are. Listen, China, CCP is not a good organization. These people are evil. They mean us no good at all. But we still have a lot of Americans that seem to think that they're not the enemy. They're not recognizing the fact that communism is a threat to our way of life, and it baffles my mind.
Yeah, I mean, it briefs well often, and for people that are not well read. And if you look around at the tens of hundreds of millions of people that communism has put into the ground because of this, I would say demonic ideology.
Absolutely, it's demonic.
Yeah. But hey, now, as war fighters, I think just wrapping this thing up, if we look at history is replete with examples of failed attempts to suppress insurgents by using just overwhelming force,
it doesn't
indiscriminate violence, and just take for example Soviets, who often do coin via artillery strikes,
right?
And when we look at our track record in Iraq and Afghanistan, and there's so much could be said there, but just on a counterinsurgency fighting or prosecution level, I think we can learn a lot from our own history, particularly from our great victory in the Philippines against the Hook Balahop, who were put out. It took a little. There was some resurgence of them here and there, but that was a great victory, and I think that could be the answers to some of our problems, and it could answer the challenge rightly posed by General Cleveland, that we do have these tactical successes, brilliant tactical successes, followed by strategic muddling,
right?
And we need to even the playing field.
Need to fix that.
Yeah. Right on.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Pinelander podcast. If you enjoy our unique content, please consider supporting our sponsors: Soft News, provides special operations news from around the world. It's where Paul and I go to keep abreast of what's going on within the SOF community. Check them out at sof.news. American Partisan. It's the vanguard movement of Western civilization. Be sure to check them out at americanpartisan.org. And, of course, Blacksmith Publishing. We've been serving the Warrior class since 2013. They have great titles written for warriors, by warriors. If you're looking for excellent reference material or just want to enjoy a great novel, be sure to check out the bookstore. Or if you enjoy hanging out with warriors, come spend some time with us in the G-Base over at the Pinelander podcast. All that's at blacksmithpublishing.com. Until our next meeting, stay mentally and tactically smart, physically and spiritually strong, and socially astute. To each other we pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. May God continue to bless Pineland.